All right. Hope everyone's having a good summer. Happy August. 17 episodes of the Harold Katz Podcast. Can you believe it? We are one number away from Chai. Glad you could join us over in Glickman to keep it poppers. And of course, Coach's Cats, plural. Uh, Coach, the last few episodes, we've had some great guests, but I think it's finally time that we give you the spotlight again. What do you think about that?
I don't know about give me the spotlight. That's how you lose viewership. But one of these things where I think people are on summer hiatus, and we're kind of easing back into our weekly podcast. So before we bring on another guest, we have somewhat of a guest tonight. Harold Katz, athletic director at Barkai, happens to be my son. And also, it's your ninth year at Yeshiva, going into your ninth year?
Yeah, started as a senior, which I think was, yeah, something like that, ninth year.
So that means you're the longest serving Elliot Steinman's assistant in history.
A great honor.
All right, Oren, I'm turning it back over to you. Where are you guys at? Pop,
Well,
you're in, right?
I'm glad that we're finally doing a show for the first time in a while because obviously the chat never dies down, but there were some interesting topics that we discussed. I know Pop had something he wanted to discuss and I wanted to discuss. I think we can all agree that coaching basketball, is coaching basketball wherever you end up. But coaching in a Jewish school, I think there's certain expectations that are a little bit different. And I would love for you to elaborate on that, on why coaching in a Jewish school requires values both on the court and off the court in a different type of sense, if you know what I mean.
I do. It's something that both myself and my son are very in tune with. He's probably in tune with it because he was raised in my home and was hanging around me. But I believe that. I believe that if you take the responsibility to coach at a Jewish school, then not only do you have to take into consideration everything that you do within the context of the Jewish school, but I think there's a greater responsibility. Not everybody agrees with me. I would even argue that most people don't agree with me. And I don't think, by the way, that it's exclusive to a Jewish school. I think when you're in coaching, you are if you've touched a kid's life, you've now taken responsibility for that kid's life. So you have to be a role model, be a teacher, see a shoulder to cry on, be a disciplinarian. You're like the example, and I don't care what level it is. I don't care if it's bitty ball or high school or middle school or college. Long as the child's not getting paid for it, it puts them in a different situation where, you are now, like when you get to college, I coaching in college, when you get to college, in most colleges, you're actually paid to win. So there's a little more like incentive to win. But at what cost is what I always say. And are you willing to trade your values and your morality for a win? I've never been willing to do that. I hope I never get to the point where I have to do that. I have worked with and coached against many guys who would. I would not. I just think that there's got to be more to what you're doing than just winning and losing. And if there's not, and you're probably in the wrong business in a Jewish school per se, but I still think in coaching. And most coaches have told me to shut up. They got to win and blah blah blah. But you have responsibility to your players, and not only your best players, but your players who are not going to get those kind of minutes. You have responsibility to them too, because you are trying to help parents raise men in the boys basketball, men's basketball. I mean, And if that's not why you're doing it, I mean, I think maybe you start doing it because you love the game, but that, I don't want to say that gets old really quick, but at some point, you just realize there's got to be more than this. It can't just be winning and losing. And in particular, that's just addressing coaching, okay? And again, a lot of coaches will disagree with me, and that's okay. They can do it their way, I'll do it my way, and whatever happens, happens. But I'm extremely proud of the fact that last night I got invited to dinner from two of my former players for Thursday. We're going to dinner on Thursday, which my condition was they had to pay. That's always my condition. But actually, they offered to pay to take me to dinner, and those are the kind of relationships I think in coaching that you want to get and you want to get to. I'm very proud of the fact that I have great relationships with, I would say, most of the players who played for me on every level. In a Jewish school, you have a whole nother responsibility. But Ellie's here. Why don't we get Ellie's 2 cents? It may be, may be very similar to mine. Well, what do you think, Ellie?
Nice. It's. I mean, obviously, it's going to be similar to yours, but it's a really loaded question. I actually think it behooves us to kind of break it down into multiple questions, which I'm sure you will over the course of the night. But when you talk about relationships with players, specifically in the Jewish environment, our take on coaching in general has to be akin, if not exactly the same, as how we deal with our teachers. Like, coaching is education, and to separate it off, like my dad said, into winning and losing, and to put the player on the sideline and just focus on, well, I got to achieve my goal as a coach, which is to look good in front of the parent body, or to look good in front of my friends, or to make sure. I don't know. I just don't see there's much value in that. First of all, it doesn't last. Even if you're trying to chase honor, honor never lasts. If history is any indication, people will find a way to dishonor you, even if you deserve honor. You have to be able to hold on to things that are lasting and true, which I think my dad does as good as any coach I've ever seen. But I know he's learned it from other coaches as well, where you invest in your guys or girls, right? But you invest in your players, and you care about them, and you treat them as people, and you're there to educate them as obviously a player, but as a person, in our case, a ben or a bat Torah. And to not hold on to something, we have something very special, and we have an opportunity that's very special. And a lot of people are willing to chase honor instead of holding on to that which is special. And usually when you try to hold on to something as true as the values that undergird what we do in coaching, the honor will come with it when you don't think about it. When you try to chase it, a lot of times that honor will fade because you'll be focused on the wrong things. You'll lose half the players to playing time, but then you're not holding on to anything that you all care about. And if someone who's part of your program, say as an athletic director, like when I hire a coach, they need to be bought into that philosophy. And if they're not, as my dad always likes to tell me, they're not. They could be a great coach, but they're not going to be a great coach for me. A great coach for me requires them to believe in the philosophy of our program. And I only work with those who are willing to believe in that philosophy. And maybe I'll have a coaching job somewhere in the future that'll offer me tons of money, but I can't hold on to those values. I'll go on record right now, recorded, to say I won't take that job. And that's really important. Of course, I get that from my dad, but I think there's a really good set of coaches out there, a lot of which you've had on your program, that believe in similar things.
Well, Oren, or Pop, you want to refocus us? Did we answer the question, or you want to get specific to Judaism?
Yeah, no, we could definitely pivot towards there. But to piggyback on what Ellie was saying, do you think if I'm a basketball coach and I'm I'm coming to a Jewish school to coach and just coach, and I don't care about any of the other stuff that's going on in their personal lives, does that mean I'm in the wrong profession, or at least am I in the wrong space, at least coaching basketball in a Jewish school?
I mean, in my opinion, I've always kind of, no, I don't think you're in the wrong space, provided that your stuff, that you understand that boundary and your stuff doesn't trickle over. In other words, none of my kids, I don't want any of my students who are playing for some coach coming to a Jewish school. I don't want any of my students hearing about, his religious beliefs. You keep that, get to stepping if that's the idea. Like, don't come work our kids. That you're here to teach basketball and be an example for children. I don't want to hear about your night out. Ellie knows exactly what I'm talking about. I won't really get into it, but we don't need to hear about your nights out with your boys or, other inappropriate things that may be on your phone. You don't need to share that with your players. Your job is to, if you're, I personally think every administrator in a Jewish school should be doing the best they can to make sure that they've kind of looked at all the coaches who are capable in the religious community or the Jewish community, not even religious community, that all and kind of go on there before you go outside. Now, I personally have a guy coaching for me who's not Jewish, and I love him, but he also knows his boundary, and he knows that I love him. I think he's doing a terrific job. I'm glad I'm giving him an opportunity to coach. I would think I'm his first coach. I'm his first coaching job. But it's the one advantage you get coaching at a Jewish school, or at least at this level, is you're really going to find out if you can teach, because you're not working with, high profile athletes or, great athletic gifted players, which I think can pivot into a whole nother discussion. But that you're going to learn if you can coach on this level. It takes a minute. I don't. Sometimes you get coaches from another community and they come in and see the Jewish kid and then go, "Well, we can't play that way, so we'll just play 1950 style basketball," which, by the way, fits right into the Yeshiva league. But I'm saying, like the default position that we can't play up tempo, or we can't play man to man, or we can't press. I mean, I hope Yeshiva University has dispelled that, and there's really good Jewish coaches right now coaching that have dispelled that, and or good coaches coaching at Jewish schools, coaching Jewish kids who have been able to play an up tempo, different kind of style. That our kids can do that, and it's one of the things that irks me in the worst way. So I think when you take a job here, you have to know what the boundary is before you start rolling over into your own personal religious belief or non-religious belief. You got to know that if you're that kind of institution, that just ain't happening.
Yeah. Not to single anyone out, but I think there are some coaches out there in the Jewish world that do get carried away sometimes. What would be your advice to those certain coaches to, reflect and, keep things in perspective at the end of the day?
Hold on. You mean carried away like with referees in them?
Well, no, not that, but, winning is everything,
Oh. I mean, what would my advice be? I don't know if they'd listen to mine, but why are you there? Like, why are you coaching at this institution? Like, go to some Catholic league school or something like that. where the competition is greater, and
Right. I mean, this goes back to what the four of us are always talking about how there are instances at these games where coaches and fans kind of lose their way and forget the
yeah,
fact of
yeah, I kind of, I've talked to some coaches about that and just said that I don't get. Like we are at a Jewish institution. We do have Jewish values. And all this, it goes back to that stuff we talked about earlier in our earlier podcast about, kids rolling up on you and,
the fake shot clock,
yeah, all that nonsense, just, running their mouth. And I'm not saying that there's no talk. I mean, that's competitive basketball. I mean, you're a 5'11" Jew. You just blocked a shot from a 5'4" Jew, and you're rolling up there like you're the Kembe Mutombo and stuff. Stop, dude. Dude, you're 5'4". You're Akiva Poppers. You're eventually going to be in a video replay machine booth. But you over here running or flexing like Aaron Donald. I mean, Jew, come on, behave. Act like you've been there before. To me, that's the most important thing. Just act like you've been there before.
right.
And I know that I'm, and I think coaches have to curb their players. Like I don't appreciate camps that teach their kids to kind of do all that nonsense. I just don't. I think there's a lot of summer camps that do that, and I will never send any of my players to those camps. I just think that you're teaching our players to be something that they could still be great basketball players without being jerks while they play. And
Students.
Ellie, what do you got?
Students, teaching our students.
Yeah, fact. Yeah,
you would never teach your student. When I give my students their test back, I tell them never to share their grades. You never know where someone's coming from, and you never know what that other student got. And you trying to show your grade off is just you trying to validate yourself. You don't actually care what they got. You care what you got in relation to them. And you showing up some other player, like, it's just you trying to show you how big you are, to keep it kosher. It's not what we do. We do a lot of great things. That is not one of them. And we have to recognize that as coaches. I once coached at a place, and the kids asked me to yell at the refs more. The kids asked me to yell at them more. And I was silly enough and young. I mean, I'm still young relative, but I was younger back then, and I should have just said, no, I don't do things that way. I bought in. I started yelling. It's a terrible media to have, because terrible attribute to have, because you really.
Oh, well, calm down, kid. Whoa, calm down, kid.
There's a way to do it. Okay, I have not mastered it so well, but you can get on the refs. That's fine, and you should do it. Not your players, obviously, but there's a way to do it, and that's not the way I usually do it. And I recognize, like, that's just not the way I want to be a role model to my players, and the players can pick up on that. Careful, kids when they're 4 years old look at what you do, but kids who are 16, 17, 18 also do, and they'll take it in their own way. You have to be able to control yourself. If you're vicariously living through your players and you realize that you cannot control your reaction to them and the reaction to the game, you're not coaching right. I actually love how Elliot coaches. I know people get on him because he doesn't yell that much, but Elliot is apart from the game. He is thinking the game and not involved in it, if you understand what I'm saying. He's not so involved that he's missing something. And if he is missing something, he knows that he has people by his side who are going to catch him and tell him, oh, you may have missed this. It's not because he's too involved or he loses track, or because he's so involved in, oh, he's got to get this and he's got to get that, and we're down by 2. He knows, he's thinking the game. He's kind of going through it in his mind. And coaches, if you're seeing that you're so invested in play, and you're not thinking about the game in its entirety, that may be a clue. Perhaps I'm I'm a little too I'm too involved with as my dad would say, you're micromanaging the game or you're joysticking your team. And you're not thinking the game as a coach really should, which is holistically. Okay, we got 4 quarters to play, 32 minutes to play. You can't be focused on 10 seconds. You have to be focused on 32 minutes.
I think I should have interrupted you when I had this thought, because then these things just kind of they just leave. But I forgot it, and I'm gonna have to. If I remember it, I'm interrupting whoever's talking, okay, including myself. But it was an important point, sort of towards Ellie's point.
By the way, just so I can
Oh
say.
no! Stop! Don't say another word. I'm at a basketball tournament, and it was a team from the Yeshiva League was playing at this tournament. And I mean, every foul call, every whistle, they got something to say. I mean, they won't shut up. And I'm watching in amazement how much the coach is letting their kids talk to the referees. And the way they're doing it, I just couldn't believe it. And what was amazing was when they went to the foul line and the fans on the other team were kind of making noise to distract the free throw shooter, the coach complained to the referees and to the tournament director that this was a lack of Jewish mitos, that the behavior was not the way we do. Well, whoa, I just watched your team for 30 minutes, moan and cry and yell and bitch, and you're coming to me now about the mitos of the fans, about the behavior of the fans when your kids behave like that? Nah, man, sit down. Sit down, get to stepping. Get out. See, that's the kind of nonsense that just drives me crazy. You let your kids talk. You let your kids jar to the referee all day. And then the fans will say, and then you'll be like, hey, this is not the way we behave. What? I mean, I don't know. I'm coaching a long time. I can't even think of. I mean, I'm talking in high school now.
Right.
I can't even think of 5 times where one of my players got called out by a referee for talking, or that my players even addressed the official.
And probably because the tone is set at the top.
Yeah, I just don't tolerate it. Look, let them hate me. Don't like you because they'll feel sorry for you because you play for me. I'll take care of that. You understand? You have the only person you talk to is me and your teammates. And when you talk to your teammates, as we've discussed here in the past, you do it with the respect that you do it to a teammate. Because I'll sit you for the rest of the day. I don't care. And back to something that I know I addressed with Pop, and I addressed it with you recently, Oren.
Right.
Like, just as one example, I've now gone to that Sarachek tournament 4 times. And the only way I've ever gone is to win it. And when I'm not going to win it, I don't care. It's the end of the season. Celebrate, enjoy. My sons give me crap about it all the time. I don't care. I came to win. If I'm not going to win, do I care if I'm in 28th place? Why do I care? I want my guys to play. Pop, the Nerd Patrol, they sit there and go, you finish today, you're going to be in 12. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Like,
Coach, you want to tell the story about when we were playing on Monday, last game, and then what happened after the game there?
So when one of the kids was kind of running his mouth, I think.
We're the 21 seed. We're 12 seed.
It was the 21 seed. Now we end up being the 15, whatever. My problem with the kid was, first of all, who are you yelling at? You yelling at us? Like, what did we dress? 7 people? Like,
Yeah.
you're yelling at us? Like, what? Really? Like, we didn't see you, brother. You know what I mean? Like, we played, we didn't see you. But the fact that you behave like this, they get that from television or, yo, you disrespected us, dude. Shut up. Leave that in the locker room. Okay.
Well, I think it. Sorry, Dad, I'm not going to interrupt you. You finish your thought.
No, go ahead. You just did. My thoughts already gone.
Try to keep it off here. I thought you were done.
You're good.
You're good.
To your point, I wanted to, so I don't forget. There is so much of kind of vindictive feeling behind winning games now,
Mm-hmm.
and what it really takes away from is the actual joy of winning with brothers in arms. You know, there's like so much of the, oh yeah, we were 21st place and now we're 15. We feel disrespected, and this
Yes.
everything's disrespected. Everything's disrespected. How about we achieve something really good here as a team? Let's go celebrate by enjoying each other and enjoying what we accomplished. Instead, you don't get that. All that
Yeah.
you get right now is I'm vindictive. I'm
Right.
upset.
It's
And I
more about
accomplished
them
something.
than us. It's more about them than
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
And I don't know why that's happening so much right now. I think there's something even outside the Jewish culture. I'm sure my dad can speak to this more than I can. It's really maybe even a worldwide thing, a
Well, it's a
victimhood thing.
sports
I don't
center.
really know.
It's a sports center problem. Like that's it's, you're on social media, Instagram. The guys who just say good game don't get any play on Instagram or Sports Center. The guys who like high five you and leave. The guys who get to play are the guys who be like, yo, you disrespected us.
Right.
Well,
And
Coach,
coach, betting lines are like very popular these days. Like before a game starts, like what's the line? You know, like kids are focused on that too.
And the disrespect thing also,
What?
Coach, like the Yeshiva League Pass posts, oh, here are the top 24, here are the rankings
Right.
for check. And then
Good plug-in for Yeshiva
on
League Pass, by the
Tuesday
way.
or on Sunday, like a week or two before the tournament even happens, before teams can prove that they were wrongly seated.
Right. So maybe we need to dial that down.
Disrespected.
It's never going to get dialed down, or what we need to do as a community is coaches need to take responsibility for that nonsense.
Yep. Yeah.
Say, you know what? I'm not going to play you guys who behave this way. I'm just not. If I lose, I lose. But I'm going to, look, I've said this before on this podcast. I told this to my kids their whole life. At some point, you have to let people know what you stand for and what you won't stand for. And I'll say this. When you play for me, you will always know where you stand with me. So if people don't like the way I coach, I don't really care. But what you're going to know is where you stand. I'm never going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you straight up. You know exactly where you stand when you play for me. I'm not going to play no head games. If you stink, I'm going to tell you you stink right now. You need to get better. We expected you to be better. We put you on this team because you're good. You have to play within the structure that we put out here. Don't stink. Because if you do, I'm going to tell you that you stink. And you guys have front row seats to that in the past. And by the way, I have relationships with all those players. And I think if you don't have a relationship with your player, like a real personal relationship, you can't do that to a player. You just can't. You owe it to your players to actually, like I always used to tell my guys, don't worry if I get on you. Worry if I don't. Worry if you did something and I just ignored it. That means I don't care if you're here or not. But if I care about you, I'm and how you can affect us, I'm gonna let you know. And it's not always popular. And I'll quote Coach Davenport here. I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this for you. And a lot of coaches are afraid to do that. So they saddle up to their best players and, they're afraid to ride them and stuff like that. That's never been a problem for me. And I, may have been a problem for some other coaches. They don't like the way the players respond, screw it. Hey, this is what it is, dude. Play or don't play.
Yeah, I think my dad,
Yeah.
I'm really happy you made that point. Like sometimes you don't always say it, and I want to give you credit where credit's due. coaches are able to get on their players when they develop relationships with them, but the player knows that when they get on them, they're doing it because they care. You have to show your players that you really care about them. So you actually have to put in work as a coach. You have to come early. You have to work with them extra. Maybe give a couple minutes of your time that you didn't previously have. You didn't promise. You didn't set aside time for basketball, but you had 5 extra minutes and you brought them into the gym and you worked with them. One, because you actually do care. You should care.
Or you just sat down next to them and asked them what they're having for dinner and where they're going for the weekend and how they're doing in their schoolwork. Yeah. That's what the kid wants to know. You having problems at home? Can I help you with your girlfriend? You know what I mean? Like that's how you develop relationship with your kid. And then you just can't take yourself too seriously. I remember we had a player and I could never get him to make, he would always make a banana cut, you know, like kind of cut around the screen and never like right into the screen. And I just looked at him and said, "Hey, B, I'm not trying to date your sister. I just want you to make a straight cut." Like, and he never forgot that because I wrapped it in a joke. And I was kind of pissed at him, but I'm trying to make a point. Like, dude, I just want you to do this the right way. How can we do this in such a way? And that's not everybody's personality. A lot of people can't do that. Find your own way to do it where it'll be memorable for him. So, all right. I get it. And that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that.
No, it's a great point. I mean, I remember one time, my first year coaching with Elliot, he was not on the bus. We were driving up to Sage. I mean, Sage is so far. I don't know why we were in the conference together. We no longer are. But we were driving up to Sage and I, called up Shelby. I remember I called up Shelby to the front of the bus where I was sitting, went over a little bit of the scout with him, and then I just wanted to see how he was doing. First of all, Shelby and I were friends from before, and I called up another guy and then Mikey, and like I developed a relationship with them. Now I wasn't getting on them, but they knew that they could come to me. And by the end of the season, when we were fighting in the playoffs and we had opportunities to win games, we had a home playoff game and we won and we went to the semi. Like they had a relationship with me that they could come to me and discuss with me. Then there's this great picture that my friend actually took of me talking with Mikey and Shelby before the game on the sidelines about the scout. And the guys, they're older than me, most of them, but then they learned to respect me and they knew that I cared about them, and I do, and I still do. But that was a great lesson for me because I was really out of my comfort zone, especially because they were older than me. I didn't feel like it was my place always to get on them or talk to them about those types of things. But Elliot, first of all, gave me the opportunity to do that, which was wonderful. And I thought, maybe this could work out. And I always took that with me. And so now guys, whether it's at Barkai or at Ramaz Once Upon a Time or Kohelet, I still have a relationship with those guys. When they see me, they feel comfortable coming up to me and talk to me about what's going on with them. And I think coaches who are able to strike that line, I'm not perfect at it by any means. There are some unbelievable coaches, including in the Yeshiva League, who are better at this than me, I'm sure. And thank God we have them. But I think sometimes coaches, just don't see the whole picture. That is the whole picture. And by doing that, you create a better chemistry within your team, a better culture within your program, and eventually a very winning program because people want to be part of that. And I think people are starting to see that with YU a little bit.
Or was there something else you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I think Pop had.
Pop, was there something, some other issue that we were talking about that you wanted to mention? Talking about Pop.
Woj be texting somebody.
I think there was someone in the waiting room, so he was waiting to vet that.
In the waiting room,
yeah, we had someone in the waiting room and asked if he wanted to ask you a question, and he said orangutan, and then he left.
He said what?
I don't know. Orangutan. Yeah.
Awesome.
We also had someone earlier. And then we invited them in and they said no. People are scared of you, Coach. I don't know what's up.
I tell you, Pop.
Knock, knock, dips.
Go ahead, Pop. Was there something? Was there
Yeah,
something?
there was a video which I saw on social media, which I knew you'd want to talk about, where some random social media person was asking, he asked a couple of rabbi teachers of, I don't know what it was, second grade kids, and he's asked them, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a teacher. I teach these boys. Oh, okay. Then he asks the boys, what do you want to be when you grow up? A basketball player, baseball player, basketball player. And I mean, none of them said what I guess you would normally hear 20 years ago in a Jewish school, like lawyer, doctor, rabbi, whatever. And they all want to be basketball players or baseball players. And I wanted to get your thoughts on if that's an issue, and regardless of if it's an issue, what do you think people in education should be doing about that?
Well, I I don't think it's the Rebbe's. I don't think the Rebbe should be telling that the rabbi should be telling them, no, it's not good. Like, I don't think in the second grade level, right? I think that's just let a kid dream for a minute, because recess comes every hour, and that kid realizes right quick he's not even the best player in the third grade. So like, I think there's I don't think people really understand how good you have to be. Well, I know this is true. They don't understand how good you have to be to play at yeshiva, because we constantly get videos from people who, it's kind of like, you ever watch American Idol, and they bring some kid in for a audition, and he's just the worst. And his mom was telling him, you sound great, son. You should go to American Idol. And the kid was just stupid enough to do it. Like, we get videos sometimes for YU. Mom and dad just told him how great he was, and his teammates, because he was cooking some Jew school in Poughkeepsie or something like that. And you just know, like sometimes my response to Elliot will just be like, I don't know if I should like laugh or cry. Like, I should be laughing that we got this, or crying that this person thinks they can play here. Like, I don't think people understand how good you are how good you have to be to play at yeshiva right now, first of all. Because yeshiva is a national program, whether we like it or not.
Like it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, we're still on a national stage now, where we used to be 420. Now we're, I don't know, top 75. I mean, I'd say better, but we have to still prove that. There's still a ways to go, maybe top 100, whatever it is. We're in the upper echelon and I think we're in the upper echelon, but that's just my opinion. Or at least we have been in the last 5 years. So I don't think people understand how good you have to be to play there. And I definitely don't think they understand how good you have to be to play in Division I. And I know they don't know how good you have to be to play in professional basketball. Like, I remember when I was a kid listening to somebody talk to Dr. J. And they asked him about, how good are the players in the NBA? He said, well, there's 300 million people in the United States. There are, I forgot what he said, 3,000, what did he say? 30. There's 300 players in the NBA, which means you got to be one in a million. Which means you got to line up a million people and beat them all one-on-one. That's how good you have to be to play an NBA. Like, I don't think people understand. You as good as Ryan is, and Ryan is terrific. He's playing in the G League. As good as Jacob is, and Jacob is great, he's in A-ball. Like, they're both young. They both have futures in front of them. But perspective is a real important thing. And I think you have to be honest with your players too. And if your player has an opportunity to play in college, you need to do everything you can to help him or fill him in. And if your player does not, you need to be honest with your player and let him know, But I don't think that's the teacher's, like the Rebbe's responsibility. I think that's mom and dad's responsibility, to be honest with you. Like, because the Rebbe does it, and then the kid's going to be like, well, my rabbi rejected me. My rabbi rejected me, and now I don't, you don't want that situation. But like, as a coach, it's my job to tell my players, son, this just ain't in your future. Soccer may be a better idea here. And you guys know how much I love soccer. So speaking of which, Oren, did I just see that just to get off this, was this thing nothing, and these women who run their mouths so much? I'm just saying, they sell it,
They stayed up for the game.
11, they were up 11-0 on Canada one time and scored a goal or something like that, and then we're celebrating an 11-0 goal. I'm like, sister, sit down. Like,
Coach, this is probably for an off the record session.
No, just learn how to win. Just learn.
I agree with that.
Learn how to win with some kind of class.
Yes.
Like, be somebody everybody wants to root for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, Oren. First of all, nothing doesn't do anything for me. Okay. Second of all, and the only reason I know
a 3 a.m. game, no less.
Yeah, I just saw it. Like, I just saw that score, and I went, "Are you kidding me?" They're celebrating that it was 0-0, so they moved into a shootout round or whatever.
They got hammered by some pundits for it.
But my point is, like, be somebody to root for. They're not rootable. Like, I
don't disagree there.
They're just not. Who wants to root for a team like that? It has nothing to do with their winning and losing. It has everything to do with their behavior. And I would tell you the same exact thing in the Yeshiva League, and the same exact thing in the Catholic League, and the same exact thing in the NBA, and the same exact thing in college. Who wants to root for that guy? I don't want to root for that guy. Like, just learn how to win. Just, like, when Dylan Brooks was in college, I think they were playing Duke in the NCAA tournament. And I guess they're up like 15 or whatever, and it must be like 5 seconds to go in a game. And he's holding the ball for 20 seconds or something, and then like pulls a shot from 28, 30 feet away and makes it, and then celebrates. Dude, the game's over. Drop the basketball, take the violation, and move on.
I had that issue a few weeks ago in my rec league. The game was well over, and one of these guys put in the layup, even though it was 3 seconds left and they were up by 11.
Just walk away. Pop, you remember this game, but Yeshiva's playing Purchase, and it's the finals. And I remember Sim gets the ball at half court. I don't know, maybe there's 40 seconds, and Donnie just walks up to him and puts both his hands out.
Yeah,
and I'm like, hey, we have enough here. I mean, like, let's just take the violation, and right? Or you remember something like that?
And then Lot went over to
correct, to Don. Yeah. Right. And that's how you win.
That was up 12, 40 seconds left.
Yeah, we have enough points, or we had a situation where, we were drilling somebody, maybe it was Harrisburg or something. It was like a couple minutes to go, and Eitan was breaking the press and expected Donnie baseline, and Donnie popped corner, because he figured Eitan would just give it, and they run some clock and finish the game. And then it was a timeout, and Eitan got mad at Donnie. And Donnie just pointed to the scoreboard. It's like, dude, we got enough to win here. We don't need no more points right now. And that, I think people lose sight of that. Chasing numbers is a dangerous thing. And chasing numbers, not chasing numbers as in wins, chasing numbers as in statistics.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dangerous
By the way, to have Eitan's back there, there's still a couple minutes on the,
I get it. I'm not trying to I love Eitan.
No, I'm just saying, like, there are people, I mean, I'm seeing it more now, more than any other time, like people just getting an extra layup, and I don't know.
Oh, no, yeah, and in Eitan's defense, he was looking for Donnie to get a layup. Like, he was looking for, and the right play 5 minutes earlier was Donnie cutting baseline for a layup.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But at this point, it's kind of like Eitan was still young. I don't blame Eitan at all.
Yeah, the freshman, I think.
He's a sophomore or whatever. Like, I don't blame Eitan at all. Love Eitan. It's terrific. But that was a lesson. Like, hey, we got enough. Like, he came to the bench and everybody told him, hey, Eitan, that's enough. Like, there's a way to win here. And I think when you lose your way like that, that's when it's time to reevaluate what you're doing.
Right.
And I think there are, think about this, all the Jewish kids that have played basketball in history, okay, and the religious basketball, let's just
Right.
go with that for a second.
Yeah. Okay.
Religious baseball.
Yeah.
And right now, there's a handful of kids who are playing. But like until Tamir did it, there was nobody. Right?
What do all these guys have in common? They're extremely humble,
Very
polite,
talented. Very
unique.
talented. And I'll tell you what they have, Jacob included here, and Ellie Kligman.
Mhm.
They all work hard. It's not like they, nothing was. I know how much. I know how hard Tamir worked. I know how hard. Who's that? Who is that? Why are we getting feedback
Is
here?
that Oren?
Pop. I know how hard Ryan worked at it. I know how hard Tamir worked at it. I know how hard Jacob worked. Like people don't understand. Like forget the pros. To play in Division III basketball, to play at YU right now and get minutes. Yeah, I get up early in the morning. I believe it was in a Rocky movie where Mickey says to Rocky something like, for a 45-minute fight, I think we've talked about this. You've got to train 45,000 minutes. Like, you don't just wake up and decide you're going to be a basketball player. Mm-hmm. You got to do the work. The kid can dream it all he wants. Mom and dad will know. If you got to force that kid to go to the gym and work out, your kid's not good enough. If you got to force him to grab a bat or a ball, he's not good enough. If you got to force him to play, he's just not good enough. As talented as he might be, he's not good enough to play. Maybe dad wants to play, but kid can't play. And
they have to be on top of themselves.
What's that?
They have to be on top of themselves.
No question about it.
Like, I want to do it.
Yeah, no question about it. It's got to be something. It's a job. And it's a job that there are no guarantees, because you could put in those 45,000 minutes and not make it. But it's the journey that you have to enjoy. If you don't enjoy the journey, don't even try. And I think that's a perspective that, we have to understand that in thousands of years of history, there has been right now 2 guys.
Yeah.
Okay. 2. And you want to say there's been 5, 10, whatever. This is 3,000 years. There've been 5 guys.
And that's why I think Judaism is such an important component to contribute to that work ethic. Say you're getting, shachris in the morning, you can put in the work to get up for that minyan, or you can continue taking the easy way out and going to sleep. That's one example. All our responsibilities out there in the frum world can be applicable towards our work ethic to achieve our ultimate goal in sports.
Right. Well, yeah, if that's your ultimate goal, yeah. But I mean, understand there are monster responsibilities that come with it, including behavior, including punctuality.
Punctuality.
I was going to say punctuation. Punctuality. I mean, it all builds on each other. Like but most importantly, the coach has to be honest with the kid and the player. And I'm not sure you can trust the trainer on it. You understand? Trainer's getting paid. Trainer's getting paid money to train the kid. So trainer says to mom and dad, hey, kid's great. He's going to be great. Keep pumping me $100 an hour, Or you could just be honest with the parents and say, hey, soccer's the way to go here, because he's kicking this thing all around the gym. You know what I mean? But so I think that's really the responsibility here. Like, it's a coach's responsibility to bring some common sense to the conversation. Doesn't mean you can't be a great high school basketball player. Doesn't mean you can't be a great middle school basketball player. Doesn't mean you can't be a great college basketball player. But understand what it takes and how good you have to be. And I think for that, the Rebbe doesn't have a perspective on it. And the Rebbe has to be there to build the kid up. The coach has to be here is here to be honest. And by the way, as the child gets older, it's the rabbi's job to be honest with him too. You understand what I mean? Like I'm just saying, like in the younger grade,
you teach them where they are. The
Yeah.
second grader is allowed to dream.
yeah,
As he gets older, he most likely will fixate his dream on something more realistic because he's going to grow older and have a
Right.
developing brain. And eventually the Rebbe or the teacher will step in and be like, you're really good at math. Here are some jobs, or here's your future that I think you'll be really successful in.
sound
If you
familiar,
get
Pop?
What you're saying, me?
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's like what Ellie said. Pop
I was not the
never
math
had-
guy.
I never had
Pop
anyone
want to
tell
be
me
a
that.
pitcher, Ellie. Pop want to be a pitcher.
No, I never had anyone tell me that. I figured it out myself.
Exactly.
You're good at math, son. You're good at math. Stay in the math lane. Go ahead, Ellie. I'm sorry.
And you don't feel like your dreams were taken away from you. You grew
Pop's
up,
living this dream right now.
you realize where you were, and that's okay. Yeah, the kids will figure it out most likely by themselves. And if the adult is working against them, and saying, no, you really are good at this, or you really are,
That's the crime.
and
Right
that's where I think a lot of adults are getting mixed up. And you see a lot of adults and coaches telling their kids at a very young age to just play one sport and just play this and work your
there.
whole life.
That's a mistake. Yeah.
It's just it's criminal. And not in the legal sense of the word, but it's
Well, you're cheating.
Morally, morally
you're
bankrupt.
cheating the kid. Yeah, you're cheating the kid. And there's a lot of that. If a kid comes to you in 8th grade and wants to start specializing, well, so be it. But that's his choice.
I'd still tell him you should probably play other sports.
It's usually good for the sport they want to specialize in anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was just
yeah.
teaching a kid how to shoot a basketball. I'm like, balance is the key to shooting this basketball, as it is to a batting stance in baseball and to wrestling and to boxing. Like, there's so many things that overlap. I played lacrosse. I was great for my basketball, and basketball was great for lacrosse.
National
And,
sport
like,
in Maryland.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
What were we gonna say, Warren?
No, I think it's, I never really thought about it on how every little one-on-one conversation between a player and coach is very crucial in their development. It's the same way as like,
You
Yeah.
never know. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Oren. You
no, for
never
sure.
know. They teach you this in educate as a regular teacher all the time, but they don't make you come to professional development as a coach, but they should. Everything you say to a student is important, and you never know what they're going to take and run with. That's why teachers get in trouble a lot. You have to really be careful with what you say, not just from a legal standpoint, which has become more the case than ever, which is why a lot of teachers are leaving, but also for education. You tell a kid you can't, all that kid hears is you can't. I don't care what you say afterwards. My dad always told me, and he's not the only coach I've heard this from, but you always talk in the positive.
Yes.
I saw this. I just went to a basketball camp, and the coaches on the sideline kept saying, don't foul, don't foul, don't foul.
Play good defense.
I think it's going to happen. All they're hearing is foul, foul, foul. Play good defense. The kid's not playing up to their potential. One of the most empowering things a coach has ever said to me is, you're so much better than this.
I believe your dad said that to you.
You said that to me more than once, but I've had good coaches in the past.
Yeah.
I've had some good coaches in the past who said this to me as well, but you're so much better than this, because most likely they are, and they're just not performing to their standard. And that's why you're mad.
Why do you accept this from yourself?
Yeah, you're mad because you know they're better than that. So that's the truth. You're not lying to them. You're just framing it in a different perspective.
Right. That's why.
And they respond so much better. Sorry.
Right. And well, that's why I never say, don't turn the ball over. It's always take care of the basketball. Like, it means the same thing, and you're not talking in the negative. So as much as people think I
Pretend everything in a positive sense.
I coach in the positive, and I don't
positive or encouraging sense.
Well, that I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, look, I'm just honest with you. I think honesty is the key to any relationship, but more than anything, the coach and player relationship. Player has to know where he stands. Like I that's like a really big deal. So he doesn't play head games and doesn't have that whole thing. I was I may have told this story before. Maybe it'd be cool one day to get him on here. Tamir was at the Capitol Classic, and it was downstairs at the Verizon Center. What's it called now? Verizon Center, is that what it's called?
I think it's still called there, right? The Washington one in Washington.
Yeah, I think it was the MCI Center at the time, or the Verizon Center, whatever it was. We're underneath before the game, and David Hawkins, who played with Temple. Where else did he go? He went to Temple and Tulane. And I think he had a cup of coffee with the Rockets, and he stopped me. I was underneath. He said, "Coach, I wanted to thank you." Have I told this story, Pop? Have I told this story, or?
I think I've ever heard it.
I'll know after you finish telling the story.
Thanks. He said, "I wanted to thank you," and I said, "Why is that?" He said, "You remember you came, you were looking out for Indiana, and you came to see one of my teammates, and I stopped you in the parking lot." He came out like half still dressed. He was a ninth grader at National Christian, and I was looking at the coaches in Indiana had asked me to go look at a player, and so I probably shouldn't have said that. But anyway, Dave comes out half dressed. Yeah, he's basically in his sweats, and he comes out and he says, "Hey, Coach, do you think I heard you're here?" "Yeah, that's true. Whatever." And he said, "What do you think? Do you think I can play there?" And I said, "No." He said, "I'm really good. I'm the 10th rated player in my class in the country." I said, "Well, you're not good enough." He said, "Why is that?" And I told him exactly. He said, "You don't think I could play Division I basketball?" I said, "Well, you might get a job somewhere, because you have a big body and you have a skill set, but are you good enough to play at the highest level? No. Here's why. You don't do this, you don't do this, you can't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, you're lazy here, He said he said that little 15 minutes he spent with me in the parking lot was the best 15 minutes of my career, because all I did for the next 3 years was get in the gym and make sure that if Coach Katz ever saw me again, he would know I was good enough, that I did listen to what he said, and I went in the gym and I did the work, and I'm playing tonight in the Capitol Classic. So I wanted to thank you for that, and I'm going to Tulane. And I said, "How about that, Dave? I'm happy." And he ended up playing for John Chaney at Temple. He was real good, and he was good that night. That's kind of goes back to that, the Orange point about conversations with a player. I don't usually share those kind of situations here, but I thought, once we're on the subject matter, like that was a really, imagine how important that was for him in that conversation. So the coaches should understand just how meaningful that is, and how meaningful it was for me to get a text yesterday from players said they want to take me to dinner. Unfortunately for them, I said yes, and that's going to cost them because my dinners are expensive. So good luck, kids.
By the way, you want to understand how difficult coaching can be. So you have, say, 12 different players on your team, and all of them respond to constructive criticism in different ways.
Yeah.
And you have to know your guys well enough to know how that guy's going to take me saying this. And to be able to know that, you got to put in work. We talk so much about players and how much work they have to put in, and that's 100% true. And a guy like David Hawkins becomes David Hawkins because he responds that way. I can't even begin to tell you how many guys that I've tried to help who just don't respond the way that they need to respond to get better. So you have to understand that. And then as a coach, right, David Hawkins comes up to you, you could say that. You can say, you get another player who comes up to you and you say the same thing, and that shuts them down. They never want to play again. And that's not my dad's not David Hawkins' coach. David Hawkins came after him. My dad says whatever he wants. But if you're the coach and parents have entrusted you with their child
Be honest with them.
to, you got to be honest with them. You got to be honest with them the way that works for them.
Yeah. So they leave the conversation knowing that you care.
Yeah. So it's fans talk a lot. I've told you guys about how I feel about certain things that happen in the fandom world. And this, coaching is, I give Elliot so much credit because what he's done is so improbable. And so few coaches get to do it. I've seen like two, the guy at Swarthmore and Elliot on the D3 level, at least. I know there are other coaches who have, I just don't know about them. And we just lost a great coach to retirement with Pat Miller at Whitewater, but coaching is so difficult and requires so much work, and a lot of coaches aren't willing to do it. So I want to give credit where credit's due. By the way, we've come across some great coaches in D3 like Ron Rose and Glenn Miller, and like I've just got to see so much. I know Woj is very tight with that crew over there. And my dad was talking about how great you have to be at Division 3. You have to be a really great coach in Division 3 too. And some of the best ones are consistently great, like the Illinois Wesleyans, like the Elmhursts. Like Randolph Macon or Josh Merkel. Getting to do a scout against those teams is like a privilege and so much fun because they're so good at what they do. And them cultivating the players that they have sometimes is so impressive. So like I was saying, with coaches who are able to retain their jobs and succeed year in and year out and recruit year in and year out, it's so impressive. Elliot's, I think, there, and he's there with some really great guys. I've said this for a few years now. I think the coaching at the D3 level is the most impressive I've seen in the world. So I give that shout out.
Oren, you got to go, huh?
Yeah, it's time for my
babysit.
Adult
babysit.
It's time to babysit and break.
I'm sure I'm gonna make a lot of friends at the TAB.
Break up some fights.
We got to. Who's Sam?
Sam just wants to listen. He doesn't have a question.
Okay, good for you, Sam. Well, we're almost done, Sam.
Yeah.
You feel free to ask a question if you want.
So, Oren, you got to go babysit at the TAB Summer League.
JVC Summer League, here I come. Thanks so much, as always, to our viewers for watching. Thanks to both Coach Katz, both Katzes in the plural. And,
well done, Oren.
And Poppers, of course. And we'll see you guys hopefully in the near future for episode 18 of the Harold Katz Podcast.
You got it. Thanks, guys.